My Monopoly game, I started in 1979 and found what the problems were in the code listing that I had recovered in April of this year, and finally believe I have the game successfully running, and it runs not only on this computer but all three of the computers in the series when they have at least 32K of memory, which that was the minimum for this computer, and the 4051, it was the maximum memory footprint. Let's put in up to 4 players. I'm going to do 2, which shortens the game a little bit because it's much harder to get a Monopoly when you've got 4 people playing the game. And I'm going to use the contestant names Wilma and Fred Flintstone. Gotta type it correctly. The first letter of their name will be used as their player token as they move around the board. So both players start with $1,500. As shown at the top above the board is how much cash each of the 2 players has. First player is Wilma, second player is Fred. Wilma is on go, and if we look in the bottom left corner, the W is blinking orange or red, and that is her player token. And so we are going to start the game with a dice roll. The 4 things that the players can do are up in the upper left corner. F1, roll the dice or continue. F2 is to buy property or house. F3, view how much property and houses you have and the total value, which is used by the income tax square down there. And 4th is use a cut out of jail free card if you're in jail. And then F8 function key will quit the game. So let's start off with a dice roll. Wilma has moved 7 places above the go square. So we're going clockwise around the board, and I am using what's called a refresh mode so the W doesn't leave a trail. And so right now it says she's landed on chance, and the card reads advance to nearest railroad. If unowned, you may buy it from the bank. And that's one of the rules in my version of the game, is you don't have to buy the property you land on, and I don't have auction or mortgage the properties or unmortgage the properties in this game because there wasn't enough room, memory, on the smallest computer, the 4051. So she has a choice. She has to press the F1 key to advance. The next railroad going clockwise is Pennsylvania Railroad in the middle of the top of the screen. This clears the screen because the vector graphics computers, as they drew, the green stays on the tube. That's the storage. There is no display memory in these computers. So we have to erase the screen to put up new things, like in this case she lands on Pennsylvania Railroad and the deed shows up in the middle of the screen showing all the rents, and the mortgage value of $100 is half of what it would cost for her to purchase Pennsylvania Railroad. On the left it says Wilma is now on Penn Railroad. There is no owner, and she decides she's going to buy the property. So I press F2. She has bought the property, and that's signified by a stamp, a player token letter, around the middle of the deed, or I mean around the middle, inside middle of the board. And so she's marked this property as purchased, and now she can actually roll because it's her turn. So I'm going to press the F1 key, which is also used to continue to the next player. And so in this case, we've erase the screen and it's blank in the middle. Oh, that wasn't doubles for her, so that's the end of her turn, is she ended up on this square. Fred is on go, and it's blinking orangey red down there on the bottom on the go square. Rolled an 8. Landed on Vermont Avenue, and at the beginning of Monopoly, the players will take their cash and buy every property they can, attempting to get a monopoly, which is a whole group of properties. Vermont Avenue is in the property group with Oriental, two places below, and Connecticut. And what I've done in order to show that they're in a property group is I've got a dashed line right under the name of the property, and the same dashed line is under Connecticut, Vermont, and Oriental. So that is a property group. And below that, Baltic Avenue and Mediterranean are a property group that have a very fine dash line. And I use that around the board to show properties that have similar groups, like Electric Company, 2 to the right of Jail, and Waterworks, 2 above Go to Jail Square on the bottom right corner, are also in a group, but you can't add houses to the utilities or the railroad. All right, Fred wants to buy. We hit the buy button and we continue the game. All right, Wilma's on Penn Railroad. She rolls an 8. The click that you hear is a digital sound effect that I made for this game, and it uses the sound capability of the R12 ROM pack in the back of this computer. Indiana, and of course she says, I want to buy it, and she marks the spot with her initial, and her turn is over. She did not roll doubles. Oh, she did roll doubles, sorry. And so it says 1 double, so this is her first double. And we see the W marching from the Go to Jail Square all the way to her jail cell. And I've got 4 jail cells, 1 for each of the players, and player 1 is on the right-hand column, all the way to player 4 would be on the left side of the jail. So once you land in jail, your turn is over until the other player's turn. It comes back around to you. All right, Fred is on Vermont. Game has just started. The fun begins. He lands on States Avenue, buys it, and his turn is over. And now it's Wilma's turn. She gets 3 chances to roll a double, which would get her out of jail for free, or the third time, if she is unable to roll doubles on the third turn, she pays $50 and moves that number of the third dice roll. So here we go. First time, a 9, and it says she's still in jail, and that's what shows up in the middle. That's her destination, and turn is over. Fred rolled a 9, advances from States to Chance, and he gets a get out of jail free card from Chance, and that's going to be shown on the next screen. So as we draw the new screen, we're able to show the update of the cash status of the players. Wilma is still in jail in cell number 1 on the right, but we see a 1 at the top of column 2, that's the get out of jail free card for Fred. If he lands in jail, he'll be in the second column, and he could use F4 to use the card. And fortunately, Wilma rolled doubles. She rolled a 2. She went 2 places and got to electric company. No one owns it. She's going to buy it. And the purchase price, as I said, mortgage value down at the bottom of this card says $75. She just paid $150, double the $75. And we'll see that when we get to the next screen, is she will have $930 is my mental calculation. Yes. Don't run out of money. You go bankrupt in this game and the game is over. Okay, Fred is on chance. That's where he got his card. And 9 takes him to Pacific Avenue, and of course he wants to buy it early in the game. Basically all the properties that you can purchase are things that you would likely want to buy because you don't know, because of the randomness of the dice roll, which group that you want to make a monopoly on. She lands on St. James Place and says, I'm buying it because that's a nice property. Now, since I don't allow auctions for people that don't land on a square and don't want to buy it, and I don't allow mortgages, the way this game works is the offensive move. Fred made an offensive move to purchase Pacific Avenue. He is the only player in this game, in my version of the game, that would be able to get a monopoly on those properties, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Pacific, if he can purchase all 3. If Wilma lands on one of those 2 other properties in the group and buys it, she has blocked him from making a monopoly there. So let's see. Fred moves to Park Place and says, I'm buying it. Now this is going to cost him $350. Yep, he's down to 610. So you have to watch how much you have, and sometimes you can't buy the property you want because you don't have enough money. Wilma moved 2. And since she just bought St. James, she gets the opportunity to buy Tennessee and says, of course I like that. So now she's only got 1 more property in that group to land on and buy, if it's available, to have a monopoly. Since she rolled doubles, gets another try. The 9 is not double, so her turn will be over after she decides, does she want Venter Avenue or not? And of course, buy. All right, Fred, the beep meant he passed go and got his 200, but we won't see that until we hit the F1 to continue. He's on Vermont. He already owns it, and so really there's nothing more for his turn. He's going to press F1, and it's Wilma's turn. Wilma is on Ventnor over on the right side, rolls an 8. And it's a railroad this time. And the railroad is going to cost her $200, twice the mortgage value, and she has $310. She's going to go ahead and buy it, which leaves her $110 because she knows hopefully she'll pass go and get to keep her $200. And we had Fred land on another property that he owns at the top of the screen. States. And so we have somebody land on a property, and so she had to pay $35 rent, which we see at the top of the Park Place deed. $35 if it's unimproved. As you add houses and a hotel, you have the rent go up dramatically. But you have to add a monopoly, own all of the properties in a property group in order to improve it. So that was a double roll for Wilma. She continues. And now she's on Baltic Avenue. She passed go, and so she did collect 200, even though right now this screen says 75. She actually has 275. This is one of the least expensive properties on the board, and it will only cost her $60 to purchase. And so she's going to say buy, and when we clear the screen, we see that she has $215. Okay, Fred, up there at the top of the screen. New York Avenue. All right, now we get to see what a player does to block a potential monopoly. Wilma has purchased St. James and Tennessee. That's the W underneath those two lots. And Fred is going to block her from having an easy monopoly. So nobody owns all the properties, and so this one is blocked for the remainder of the game. Since, as I said, I don't have any mortgage capability, auction capability, ability to sell the property to somebody else. Wilma is on Baltic Avenue, down at the bottom, left. Went to Connecticut, and so she has an opportunity to buy this. Fred has purchased Vermont, and so this purchase will be a blocker. It will cause Fred to not be able to get a monopoly by picking up Oriental and Connecticut, because Connecticut is owned by Wilma. Now that did take money from Wilma. She is very low and has to worry. One, she probably can't buy anything else until she goes around go. It was a double. All right, free parking. So no rent on this square. If she had done a roll of 10, she would be paying rent on New York. So she needs to hope that she doesn't land on any of his property before she gets all the way to go. Fred marching across the screen to his jail cell. And so he hit the chance card. The chance cards, there are 16 chance cards. There are 16 community chest cards that were randomly scrambled as the game began. And so he is in jail. And it's Wilma's turn. But being in jail this time, Wilma's not going to be buying anything, so she's just trying to get to go. And she landed on one of her properties, so we're back to Fred. Fred's in jail. Fred is going to try to roll doubles, and possibly save his get out of jail card. So he's just going to roll. He's still in jail, did not get a double. He'll use his get out of jail card next time because he didn't want to wait that long. Wilma's getting ahead of him. Oh, these guys are running into jail squares or jail cards way too many times. So they're both in jail. So now we go back to Fred. Fred made one roll, and this time Fred is going to hit F4 to use his get out of jail free card. And it says Fred played the card. He's now moved from his jail cell to just visiting area. Rolls the dice. And he's on Virginia. Now we see that States Avenue, he's already purchased it. No one has purchased the first property in the group, St. Charles. So he says, ooh, this is a possible monopoly going here. Buys the property. And now it's Wilma's turn. And so Wilma's landed on Kentucky. And she owns Indiana, which is one of the properties in this group. So she says, I would like to buy it. She'll hit the buy button. And the computer says, you bought it. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Fred. Duh. Fred just blocked Wilma from getting a monopoly by purchasing Kentucky. He's got the money. Wilma doesn't. Because she's still in jail. She's still in jail for a second time. So, meantime, Fred's running around buying properties left and right, which is a tragedy for Wilma. Because he just blocked one of her possible monopolies. And so in this case, he hit a Wilma property and paid a little rent. So you can receive rent while you're in jail. So now she has a little more money. Two squares, B&O, it's a railroad. And Fred says $247 is his cash. The mortgage value is $100. Ooh. There's things like luxury tax by Boardwalk and Park Place down in the bottom by the Go Square. Charges you $75 tax. And he could hit rent, but he says, I must buy this. It's so hard to get a railroad. So he bought it. And Wilma's turn. Oh, it was a double that he rolled, so he now landed on Marvin Gardens. He's got $47. If he tries to buy the property, it says you don't have enough cash. But he also didn't have to pay any rent, so good for Fred. Let's see what Wilma's going to do. It's her time to get out of jail. It's her third roll. Oh, must be her second roll, because otherwise it would have showed that she paid to get out. Yes, Fred is just having fun at her expense. And he made it all the way to go, which saved his bacon because he could have gone bankrupt and that would have been the end of the game. So, Edith's got 200. Wilma's turn to have her third roll to get out of jail. She did not roll doubles, so had to pay $50. Went and landed on one of her properties, and so no rent payment needed. Fred is on go, rolls a 10. Just visiting. Wilma's once again on one of her properties, doesn't have to pay any rent, which is good because she now is in the position Fred was in, where less than $100, this is danger levels. All right, Fred owns Kentucky. She lands on North Carolina and doesn't have enough cash to buy a property and try to block Fred. She just needs to make it to go and not hit any big rent like Fred owns Park Place coming up. So it's Fred's turn. Starts on Kentucky. And lands on North Carolina. Now this time, Fred has $247. This property would be $300, 2 times the mortgage value, and he doesn't have enough cash to buy it, so he can't buy it either. Back to Wilma. And the worst thing imaginable happened. Wilma did land on luxury tax, does not have enough to pay $75, and went bankrupt. The game is over. Hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed writing it.